Good morning, everyone. My name is Aaron Strahan. On behalf of the University of Southern Mississippi, I just wanted to tell the judges thank you for letting us be here today. We are Gold Standard Construction. I'm going to take a minute and introduce our team that worked on this project. Again, my name is Aaron Strahan. I was the co-captain of the estimating team. Lucas Nolan, he was the head captain of our competition team, and he was also over the estimating part. Taylor Alford, he was over the project management side of things. And Hayden White, he was over safety and quality control. I'm going to take a moment and give our past experience that gives us the credibility and the top option for this job. In 2020, we did the Tokyo Olympic pool and dive platforms. We also did the infinity pool in Biloxi, Mississippi. And we also did the OWA Park and Resorts in Foley, Alabama.
I'm going to go over project details for Phase 1. In our Phase 1 estimate, which included the teaching pool, dive pool, and competition pool, and two buildings, which one had bleachers on top of the dive tower, our overall project cost was $22,200,422, or $482.62 per square foot. The majority of this cost is broken down into concrete, with all the concrete buildings, dive, towers, and pools, shotcrete, precast, cast in place, those are all big costs. Our special construction, which is the swim timing systems, our grandstands, another big cost, and then our electrical with the pool timing systems and all the photometrics included in this project.
I did want to touch on real quick, one of the most important parts of this job in the beginning was on the surrounding area of the job site. There are a lot of yachts and different boats, and so we had to make sure that we set up proper erosion control to maintain any dust or anything that might get over the boats or cause any damage to anybody around us.
I was in charge of the project management part of the project. Our start date was March 15th, 2024. Our anticipated substantial completion date is April 14th, 2026, and that was a total of 545 work days. So as you can see here on our organizational chart, our project executive, Lucas, and then the senior project manager is myself. Also, we got Aaron Strahan here as our lead estimator. Director of safety would be Hayden White, and quality control manager is Jose Mendez. He cannot join us today. Our site utilization plan for our Phase 1, we have in the orange our laydown area. Also, the circles will be the crane area, which they can reach to each part of the project for easy access. As also, in the top left corner, you got your parking for our subs, GCs. The site trailers in the middle, also, one would be for GCs, one would be for the subs, and then you have dumpsters closest to the project for easy access for the employees.
There's a lot that goes into the safety on this job, so I broke it down into the top 6 hazards. Starting with a fall hazard with this 27-meter tall dive tower. A fall hazard is going to be a big risk that we face. We're going to have 100% tie off at all times to avoid this hazard. Struck by incident, there could be things dropped off this tower. And so wearing hard hats and proper PPE can help keep that from being a hazard. Drowning with all the different pools, as well as being surrounded by the ocean. Drowning is a big thing that we're going to have to be watching out for. Air contaminants with the demo and concrete with the dust control. We're going to have good dust control to avoid any hazards from air contaminants. High temperatures, being in South Florida in the summers, it's going to get really hot, so we're going to have to take extra precautions to keep our employees safe and hydrated during these high temperature times, as well as cave-ins with all the excavation we're going to be doing. We're going to have trench boxes and slope our excavations properly so we don't have any risks of cave-ins. Next is quality control. We have a couple different inspection forms for quality control to ensure that our work's being done properly. We've got inspection forms for shotcrete, precast beams, liquid applied roofing, as well as electrical panel inspections. All these are just to ensure that our quality work is being documented correctly, and it's a way to double check ourselves that everything is as it should be. We have a quality awards program. So once a month, we select an employee that's producing the best quality, doing all his forms correctly, and he gets recognized in front of the company and gets a voucher to go get a steak dinner with his family. Finally, we've got a warranty management program. We know that we do the best work, and we stand behind our work, so it's our promise to y'all that if anything does come up and there's we'll be able to come and fix it for free because of our warranty program.
All right, so our phase 2 for this project, which includes the change order, which is demo and construction of building E2, and then within the building is lockers and benches, locker rooms, restrooms, things such as that. Our overall cost is $26,689,509, or $580.21 per square foot. And from phase 1, the difference between phase 1 and phase 2 is approximately $44.5 million, which is all associated with building E-2.
So for the schedule for the change order, our start date, of course, is March 15th, 2024. Our now anticipated substantial completion is September 10th, 2026. Our duration for that would be 682 work days. It added about 135 days to the project just because of the building E2.
So for quality control, we got the notice of the 2 floods we're having. So to prevent this flood going forward, we're going to update our drainage systems to redirect any water away from existing buildings or new buildings that we're going to be building as well. Our team at Gold Standard Construction, we're working on getting a waterproof paint approved to use on drywall in areas that might be subject to flooding to mitigate the risk of having this in the future.
And for phase 2, it's just about the same as phase 1, except as you see on the south side of the project is, of course, the building E2. We will have another crane area there. Also indicated by the arrows is our emergency exit route because of the flood that was happening. For questioning.
I've noticed on your site the crane radius, there's some overlap there. Can you explain if that's a safety concern? How do you plan to manage the 2 cranes?
So each spot, there was only one crane that's going to be on the job, right? Because we're doing everything in phases. Of course, you got phase 1, and as phase 1 is demoed, construction of phase 1 will begin, correct? So as we're working down, we'll be on a dive tower. Once the dive tower gets done, then we'll take the crane to the next spot, from there to the south building. So there really isn't an overlap, so to say, because there's only one crane at the time. So that's how we're going to mitigate that.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on your dewatering plan for the site?
At that time, the dates that y'all gave us for the flooding, I did not have any drywall on my job site at that time. So what I was doing was just dewatering the pools that was there. Pumps, take all the pumps out, pump it, and then we'll have someone come in and clean top to bottom in the pools. That's just about the best what I can do for the dewatering part of that project. If it was for the drywall, we would have tore the 2 feet out, redone it, mudded it, finished it, and was done. That's how we're going to do that.
To add to that question, do you have a plan moving forward to prevent any drywall you will be placing from getting damaged by flooding?
We will have, hopefully at that time, the waterproof painting also to reduce that risk. At the time, I do not have that much information. Later on, I'm sure I will. So that's how we're going to mitigate that also.
Moving on with another question on dewatering. When you're digging the pools, what is your plan to do? What are you going to do with the groundwater as you're excavating for the pools?
We'll have a slump pump running also as well. So if there was water to get into the pool, it would be sucked out immediately and push into the drainage system from there. That will keep the pool the driest as we can. I know we're in Florida, it rains a lot, so that's going to be the best we can do for that.
Well, you've got the Intracoastal Waterway right
Correct.
there, so the water table's fairly high there.
Correct.
Do you think a sump pump's going to maintain the amount of water that you're going to encounter?
I think at a certain point it can. Maybe we can put 3 or 4 in it to keep it out. But at that time, we'll do what we have to do to keep the pools dry.
Your Phase 2 site utilization plan, I see that you're trying to use the core job as your access and lay down as well, but my understanding is that the facility would have been already turned over to the client, so you're using...
Repeat that, I couldn't really hear you.
So on your site utilization plan for the addendum 2,
Correct.
yeah, you're showing the main job as your lay down and access points. My understanding is that that would already be turned over to the client. So how would you then protect the existing facility you just turned over while building the new structure?
So we will put the construction fencing around building E2 so that they can now occupy the now finished project. And when we're done there, we'll always have security there as well to keep people from crossing over and getting hurt as well. We will make sure from the start of that project to the end of the project, that everybody's safe. No one will get hurt. So.
I'd like to
In your RFP, you guys included a concrete pour sequence map. Can you talk about how you guys decided to get down to 4 phases and what the thought process was for that?
So when I was looking at the project, the best way I could do it was in the time that we had, I was going to start, like I said, demoing phase 1, closest to the building so we could, as fast as we could, get away from the occupied structure that was there. So we demoed phase 1. As demo phase 2 got started, construction phase 1 was started. And we took it in sections all the way to the dive tower. And then at the end of the project, the existing parking lot that we kept there to reduce erosion, we will mill it, put 8 inches of limestone on top, pave it, paint it, signage, and we're done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any value engineering ideas you have for the project?
Not at this time, but after the presentation, we can get with you on that.
Got a question about elevators. Your delivery schedule shows them coming in July of 2024. Your current schedule doesn't show them getting installed until May of 2025. With the tight laydown space, what is your plan to basically store that material for almost a year? And whose cost is that?
So that will be the GC's cost. Okay, we will have Connex boxes there that we will have everything stored in, from elevator to anything that cannot get wet will be in Connex boxes on the job site.
And will those Connex boxes survive the king floods?
Yes, they will be waterproofed, sealed up, nothing will be inside of them.
How did those two, the king floods and the boat show, affect your estimate? What were the considerations that you put into your estimate for those two events?
Really, erosion control. I mean, when you're dealing with flooding, you're always going to have erosion. So those costs got affected. Fencing and just erosion control devices. Those things are going to be super important, and also dewatering equipment, things like that are going to be super important and are reflected in the cost of the estimate.
And what about for the boat show?
For the boat show, can you be more specific?
Yeah, so the boat show is going to require, some maybe additional site security or some other items that you'd have to consider for your site. So were there cost impacts?
Yes. In our general conditions, I believe, there was more time allocated to security and stuff such as that. Also, we understand that with events like that, anything can happen. So, of course, we will do our due diligence in making sure nothing happens to any guest or even trespassers.
So I have a question about lead times. So delivery of this project for us is extremely important, and on-time delivery is obviously paramount. As it pertains particularly to electrical components and electrical switchgear, how are you going to mitigate supply chain issue, and what kind of lead times are you looking like for our main switchgear? We're very concerned about that. Can you elaborate on your plan?
We will order the switch at least when we first get the bid and we see that we have won the bid and got the project. We will then order the switch gear to be there for us and ready when we have to need it.
That's a great answer. I'm really curious though, what does that mean? Like up in your bid process, what kind of lead times did they give you for that? Are we 3 years out on a piece of switchgear?
I think it's right at 6 or 7 months.
Thank you.
Kind of going into lead times again, so on Amendment 3 for the south building, you have somewhat of a fast schedule. Are there any concerns with the lead times for that material, for that building?
I don't have the biggest concerns about it. I feel like if we can get it there, it can be done and started that next day, the way I laid out the schedule. Like I said before, lead times are right at 6 months. So say we get that change order, 8, 9 months into the project, we have plenty of time to get that material there for building E2.
So in your self-work discussion, you talk about self-performing painting, and you also mentioned that you plan to paint the bottom of the pool with the City of Fort Lauderdale. That sounds pretty cool. Is that cost included in the estimate, or is that in addition to the owner?
Yes, that cost is included in the estimate.
Okay, and then one follow-on question. You mentioned in order to make sure you hit the 5% or exceed it, you look at performing some of the electrical scope as kind of a backup plan. Can you elaborate on your electrical capabilities and if that's the full electrical scope or just parts and pieces of it?
I am confident in our electrical abilities. A lot of our laborers and skilled technicians are very good in what they do. They've been working in the industry for a long time, so I am confident that they'll be able to do that.
And how many electricians do you have on staff right now?
I don't remember off the top of my head. It is in the proposal, but I will get back to you on that.
Thank you.
You mentioned dust mitigation in your safety portion of the presentation. Could you elaborate a little bit on that, mostly in regards to, does that include silica exposure and anything else? So, yeah, please.
Yes, sir. Anywhere that's going to be in a confined space, we're going to have dust distractors to keep dust out, as well as wearing N95 masks to keep all of our employees safe from silica and anything like that.
During the round of RFIs, there were some questions regarding the liquidated damages on the project. Have you all reviewed the responses for that and feel like you've got any risk there adequately covered in your number?
Like I said in our schedule, the time that the floods came, there was no drywall, so we didn't have that number in there. We did plug in a number for more dirt work. It's just we all know flood comes, we're going to have washouts, everything else. We did throw another number in there for more dirt work, excavating, things like that, to get everything back to where it needs to be before we pour the concrete.
For the dewatering on the project, obviously you have the tide fluctuation to deal with. Have you guys considered any inclement weather and how that would affect the size tanks you have for dewatering?
Yes, sir. We've looked into that, and we've got all the adequate equipment to dewater everything to dewater every pool, including trash pumps and water trucks to transfer whatever water needs to be transported off-site.
So Florida is prone to hurricanes. Did you guys have any safety plans in place, or can you elaborate on your emergency action plan if a hurricane were to take place?
Yes, ma'am. We do. In our safety plan, it shows our emergency action plan. The site superintendent will keep everybody informed if there's a hurricane that's going to be coming, and we'll get the site buckled away, and there won't be anybody on site when that time comes.
With the facility as such, there's quite a bit of standards that have to be met, just excluding the building department, or in conjunction with the building department. Did you guys have that accounted for in your QC plan, and did you have enough in your estimate or with your trade partners to account for whatever that may entail?
Yes, sir. All that is covered in our estimate, and it's been well thought of.
Can you guys elaborate more on your quality control process as it relates to deficiencies once it's been identified?
Yes, sir. All of our quality control forms are put in place, and to be sure that it's just really a second checklist to make sure that everything's done as the spec shows and as it should be done. Does that answer I kind of missed the end of your question.
Not exactly. If there's an issue or deficiencies that's been observed, what's your protocol to fixing it?
Yes, sir. We'd get our team together and come to look at our shop drawings and our plans and come to an agreement on what our issue is and a good way to fix it. And we're going to just take a step back, look at it, figure out our plan, and then jump into action and take care of it.
Thank you.
I have two questions. So the first one was, as far as inclusions and exclusions, did you visit the site before you bid on the project?
Yes, we did.
You did?
We made a trip down there.
Okay. So you have dust control covered. What about welding and the sparks from welding? How are you going to protect the boats in the marina from damage? And if a boat is damaged, is that going to come back to us, the owners, to cover that cost, or do you have that included?
That would be our responsibility as the general contractors. The cost is implemented in the fire protection of our proposal.
We have fire blankets, and our safety plan talks about our fire blankets that will be used for any cutting, welding, grinding. Those will be around the area that the welding's going to be taking place to avoid any boats getting damaged, as well as we're covered with an insurance policy that would take care of any issues if we ran into that.
Fantastic. And last question, and this has no bearing on your score. We are just interested as a judges committee. Did you use ChatGPT in your proposal? No.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Actually, I've got one question. Aaron, what would be, in your opinion, the greatest risk for this project?
The greatest risk is definitely going to be, as far as safety concerns, is going to be falling and making sure that they're protected in the way that they need to be, and then also drowning as well, just because of the water that's surrounding the site.
Thank you.
All right, our time for questions has come to a close. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Go ahead.